And welcome everybody to another Saturday night live stream. It's great to have you here. We of course have Nancy Danter in the house, and tonight we have a topic and a half. We're going to be talking about the good old supply chain crisis. One of those topics that almost every chat I've been in where Nancy's been there, people have been asking her about it. So this is your chance to get as much information as you want about that good old supply chain. So without any further ado, let me just introduce Nancy. Nancy, how are you doing tonight?
I'm great. How are you?
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Hey, it's Saturday night in March. We're almost halfway through the worst month of the year. I'm sorry for those people who love March. To me, it's the worst month of the year because I kind of go, once you get through January, February, like, oh, we're almost on the other side of winter. But March feels like it drags right out. But we're almost on the other side of it, halfway through almost.
Absolutely. Yeah, March is one of them months where it's like it doesn't know if it's winter or spring.
No,
it's winter. Next week, apparently next week it's going to be spring. We got some good temperatures coming, which is nice.
It is nice. It's awesome.
Absolutely. So everybody can get around. And plus, if you're in Ontario, the mask mandate's dropping on the 21st. Well, partially on the 21st. You still have to wear a mask if you're going on like a bus or if you're going to a retirement home or a hospital. But, we're that much closer, folks, to having the old days back. But speaking of the old days, let's just jump in right away to a little bit of the supply chain. So I think the first I noticed about the supply chain is at the very beginning of the pandemic, it began with lumber. Lumber just went absolutely crazy.
Well, that was the most visible one, but I think it might even have been toilet paper.
Yeah, that too.
Toilet paper. I think for most people what they don't really think about or they don't really look at quite, maybe they need to look for supply chain. It always comes down to the law of supply and demand. So when something is in high demand and there's low supply of it, it causes the price of everything to go up because why would I give you this thing why would I give you this yellow pencil if it's the only one and everybody wants it? Then I'm just going to keep raising the prices to the moon. And then, but most people don't spend a lot of time thinking. The law of supply and demand is always in action. And so then when this yellow pencil goes, like there's no supply of it and everybody wants it, then what happens is competitors come in and they gear up as quickly as they can and they try to make as many yellow pencils as they can. Now you got the market flooded with yellow pencils and everybody's like, it's not that exciting anymore. I don't need a yellow pencil. I don't really want a yellow pencil. And the price just drops. So I think for a lot of things, sometimes it's just that scarcity mentality is sometimes just artificial. Sometimes it's a misperception of what we're being fed in the media. Like the stupid toilet paper thing was literally just based on wrong information. There was never a shortage of toilet paper ever. We had enough, but people were hoarding it. And so manufacturers were like, what's going on? So what they did was, as soon as this is toilet paper in particular, as soon as they realized that retail, for whatever reason, is going nuts for toilet paper, all they did was they stopped producing it and putting it in boxes that are for institutions like me. We buy things in big giant crates that we send then to hotels, hospitals, kitchen, like restaurants, that kind of stuff. So we sell them in the crate of about 50, 100, 150 rolls per box. So all they did was they went, okay, we need to stop packing it like that. We'll start packing it in the small little, 18, 20 packs, and we'll start shipping it out to, and that's why it corrected itself very quickly.
Although here's a funny little thing. I was living in the Maritimes at the time, and we actually did have an actual toilet paper crisis. And the reason we had one is the natives who were protesting in New Brunswick, but were blocking all the railroad traffic, so they couldn't actually get toilet paper into Nova Scotia.
Right.
So we had a legitimate one, but the rest of the country had plenty of toilet paper.
Right. So it's just that so when you're looking at supply chain and all the rest of it, or you're looking at trying to get into a business, or you're trying to figure out what to do for the rest of your life as far as making yourself prepared, you should always be looking at what could be a scarce item, what could be something that we need to pay attention to. So when everybody got locked down, so the toilet paper thing ran first. Then everybody's trapped in their homes, and as they're sitting there, they're looking around and they're going, oh, our place really sucks. And nobody paid, as we always saw it, but nobody paid as much attention to it because we were out busy. When we were busy living life, we were here, there, everywhere. And you'd go, yeah, it sucks, but it's not such a big deal. But when you're sitting in your house endlessly staring at that thing that sucks, now we're going to do something about it. And everybody had the same reaction because we went. And so then when lumber went, then the price of lumber went through the roof.
Oh God.
And it's that law of supply and demand. And of course, because they weren't sure what to do about whether they have workers working, whether they had to separate people. So now they're not producing as much lumber, like as enough at this of what was coveted, which was, I'm sure, the 2x4s and the, see, Tim, I do know 2x4s, 4x4s, all those crazy things. Then that's what caused it to become such a frenzied thing, because they couldn't produce it fast enough. And so then because then when the retailers would get it, they were like, I could probably get 10, 15 bucks. There's so much demand for this darn stuff. And then it trickled over to other building supplies and other materials. And it was because we were all sitting in our homes, not entertaining ourselves with anything except for our homes and our home stuff. That's where it all started from.
Well, my stepdad, he basically said, I've got nothing to do now, so I'm just going to build an entire brand new front deck. And quite literally, he would go buy the wood, and then he would come and he would need another piece. He would go and he would end up coming back saying, I can't believe it. It was $5 more than earlier today. And here's the funny thing. There were people who were tearing up their decks to sell the wood.
Yeah.
Because people were going to buy it. So
yeah. I actually convinced a friend of mine. He'd bought a new house in the middle of everything, and he had a big old shed in the backyard. It was really in decent shape. Same thing. Pretty decent shape. I said, sell it as is. He goes, what do you mean? I said, take a picture of it, say yours to have if you want to come and move it. And he goes, no, nobody's going to do that. I go, oh yeah, people will do that. People will buy that. And so he couldn't believe it. He put it up, and some construction guy, smart guy, went in and numbered. The guy numbered all the boards, took pictures of it, took a little plan, took lots of how it was. He unscrewed everything, packed it all up, took all the screws, took everything with him, packed it all up, and John could not believe it. It was crazy. Same thing, same as your dad, because people couldn't get it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All right, before we move any further, let's just quickly see who we got in chat. So we got Tim showing up first. Hey, evening all. And then Jason showing up saying, hi, Tim. Hi, everyone from Dave D. Jill saying, hi, peeps. Tim saying, hey, Jason. March and April sucks. Yes, they do. March more than April. Good thing I did not order a yellow pencil.
Yes, honey, we don't need you to order one. We already have one. See, I've got it. It's here. It's in my possession. We're fine.
Yep, absolutely. Furniture and appliances. Nate brutal waiting on the couch for 4 months.
It was probably hate. Probably meant hate.
Maybe hate brutal. Yeah, that would make sense. Oh, R. It meant maybe it's R. R brutal waiting. Okay.
Yeah.
I have a story. The supply chain is awful when you have to rely on it for work.
Yes, honey. Thank you for acknowledging that.
Absolutely. Now, for those who don't know, what is it that you do again?
So I'm a sales director for a large food distribution company in Canada. And so we supply, in my division, what I'm responsible for is hospitals, long-term care facilities, retirement homes. I'd like to think of it as heads in beds with a rotating menu. So if they've got a head in a bed with a rotating menu, so not a hotel, because a hotel doesn't have a rotating menu. So we do correctional facilities, rehab centers, Army. We do a lot with the Canadian military. So anywhere where there's a head and a bed, and the menu is like a 4-week rotating menu where, meatloaf Monday, tuna fish Tuesday, pork chops Wednesday, and it rotates around in a cycle. That's my team. That's what we do.
Absolutely. And you have been, for this community, you've been the canary in the coal mine.
Yeah.
Like, you've been warning us months and months in advance before even the press was on to it.
Yeah, because we see it before retail. Where the retail, the way retail works. So we consider ourselves dealing with more wholesale's not quite the right term, but we don't do things the same way that the retail, like the grocery store chains, or if you see it like at a convenience store, whatever, they do their deals and they hold pricing there. They get contracted pricing and they hold the pricing for 3 months. So it's always a lag in behind what we're getting, because the landed costs, everything's continuously coming in. So if there's a shipment of fish sticks coming in, that the fish sticks are coming in for us and they're coming in for the retail. But the retail's they've already done their deal. We've done our deal, but we try to anticipate what the next costs are, and we're always floating the pricing. Not everybody does it quite that way. We do it where we try to blend the price so that you're never gonna have. We try to blend it so it kind of roads up and then it floats back down nice and easy. It's a different way to do it, but retail is much different than us, and they have huge buying power in the Canadian marketplace. And so you tend to not see the shortages quite the way that they would short us out. So when the cornflake crisis was happening, they obviously prioritized the Costco's and the Loblaws chains and all that sort of stuff, because the penalties that these guys get to short out that stuff is just astronomical. And then they get put on the naughty list, and then their products get moved to a different place. So all the manufacturers will stand on their heads for retail, because they don't want to get in Costco's bad books. They don't want to get in Loblaw's bad books.
That makes sense. So when you first initially saw that something was wrong, what were you seeing initially?
It always has to do with, I have tons of friends in the manufacturing space. And so we're always forecasting out. So part of my job, I'm doing forecasting. We have teams and teams and reams of people that do this more professionally than I do. But on my key items, I'm talking to the manufacturers who take care of the healthcare segment. And as I'm thinking things through, because I'm a big picture thinker, I'm going, okay, this is not good. This is not good. If this plant gets sick, if the sickness rolls through here, how are they, if they have to spread everybody out, how are they going to keep production rolling? So then I get on the phone and I talk to people, and I'm like, so I've got a very stable set of business, because people in my world, they eat breakfast, lunch, dinner, and 2 snacks 365 days of the year. So my volume requirements are very, very steady. So I will know how many chicken fingers my folks eat, or, chicken fingers is a bad example, chicken drumsticks and fish sticks and mashed potatoes that they'll eat volume wise, case, weight, whatever. So I can forecast out, and I know how much inventory I have in my warehouse. And then I'm always asking them, they should have, if I've got 6 weeks worth of inventory, they should also have 6 weeks worth of inventory that hasn't been shipped to me. So I was constantly going, where are we at? What are we at? And then when I started hearing them tell, well, you're down to 4 weeks worth of inventory in your warehouse, and we're creeping down to 4 as well. And then I'm like, are we going to be able to get that back up? And then they're like, no, we're losing people. We've had to rejig the line. We can't get the raw material goods. And then it was the raw material discussion. And I'm like, what's happening with this? Like, why is this an issue? So then they would start to unpack that for me, saying, like, when you buy a food item, it's got an ingredient deck on it, and it's got a set label, it's got an ingredient deck, and it tells you what the nutritionals are on the packaging. If you change anything, if you change one iota of your recipe, it requires new packaging, new nutritional data. Everything has to be recalculated, rejigged, and it causes you to what they call create a new GTIN number. A GTIN number is it's a universal number that it doesn't matter who's buying it. If I'm buying it, Cisco's buying it, Loblaws is buying it, whatever. Everybody knows that universal number. So you have to create a brand new GTIN number. You got to get all your new items listed in all the different places. You got to fight for that product to get up on the store shelves. It's not a little thing to be missing pepper, or to be missing paprika, or to be missing because you screw your label over.
Right.
So when they started saying things like, we're discontinuing this line because we don't have paprika or the key things, and I'm like, well, where is the paprika? And then you start to figure out, oh, that's something else that was supposed to be coming over on one of the shipping containers. And then so this is where it just starts to balloon into a bigger and bigger problem. So we just get through, we can't get ingredients. So either they didn't have the ingredients, so they had to discontinue that. They didn't have the staff, so they had to discontinue whole lines. What they were doing to kind of be efficient is they were going, one of the bakeries that we deal with had 45 different hamburger buns they used to manufacture. Because think about every time you've been into a hamburger shop, whether it's a Smash Burger, a South Street Burger, a Works Burger, a McDonald's burger, a Wendy's burger, think about the bun. They're not all the same. Everybody wants something that delineates, so they got the best bun in the whole wide world. So what happens is the manufacturers, as they were losing ingredients, down in staff, what they did is they went, what's our most popular bun? What can we run with the most efficiency? And what ingredients do we have so we can run continuously? So that one bakery that was sending us 48 different buns every week, it went down to one bun. Bread roll burger classic. I even know it. I even know the code number for it, because I was like, that makes so much sense for them, because they knew they can almost have a monkey run the line if they lost enough staff. That's not true, but you know what I mean? But this is where I was starting to hear, oh my gosh, we're going down to one bun. That's insane. And then they were paring down their offerings. They were discontinuing items. Then we were all jockeying, and I'm in meetings going, okay, well, we need to prioritize healthcare. We need to make sure that if we need the military needs it, the hospitals need it, the long-term care facilities need the food. We were in meetings prioritizing. So if Campbell's Soup said we're gone down and we're only having 5 varieties of soups, I would go, my volume has to go first. Then everybody else can jockey for the rest, right? And then they started putting us on allocation. So we couldn't even, if Campbell's went to 5 lines of soup, and that might be an exaggeration, so don't quote me. If they went to 5 lines of soup, then they put us on allocation as to how much we could actually buy of those 5 lines of soup. Now that was where I was like, oh God, we're only allowed to buy so much. So then I'm having to hold off our customers from not hoarding items too. So, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger. So then it was, oh, well, we're discontinuing V8 juice. And I'm like, did we run out of tomatoes? I was trying to figure out what was going on. Yep. It was the packaging. The packaging got discontinued. They could not, it wasn't discontinued. They couldn't get it. So, and that's still a problem. We still haven't got that completely sorted out. We finally have apples being imported, and we're finally getting to make juice, but the little aluminum foil that goes on the top that you do the peel, nobody can get aluminum foil to do that. So now then it takes a long time. That's an easier fix. technically easier fix because you don't have to change your ingredient deck for
Mhm.
the juice, for the packaging. So that's an easier fix, but still, like, you have
Probably
to
still
do,
need an engineer to sign off on it.
oh, it, and the liability, if what if this thing blows up, what if, like, it's just, so you had all of that was all going, and it was just getting worse every day, worse and worse and worse and worse. And I was trying on the Wednesday nights to go, it's not good, this is not good. And but I knew that retail wouldn't have seen what was going on because retail's always prioritized, and they do that so that they don't have mass panic in the
Mhm.
general public, right? They don't want mass panic.
Right.
So all of that was happening, and then we started seeing the container problems and the containers backing up, and then you've got the Suez, I think it was the Suez Canal, was it the Suez, no, the Panama Canal, where the guy,
I think
which can,
it was the Suez, the one over in Africa.
oh yes, it was the Suez.
Yeah.
So where the shipping container and that jam
Mhm.
gummed up the works.
Oh, yes.
That gummed up the works. Then by the time that everything was coming in, now we've displaced people for so darn long with the pandemic on that now we don't have enough workers wanting to come in to offload containers. Now we've lost so much employment because the government made it super duper easy for people to go, why would I do this when I could just stay at home and do collect CERB? So now we've got not enough workers to offload the ships. And now we don't have enough truckers. And part of the reason we didn't have enough truckers had nothing to do with not having enough truckers per se as the person, but we had equipment malfunctioning on the trucks. And because there's no parts to fix
Mhm.
this, now we've got nobody trucking. Like, you could just see. So the problem was just compounding bigger and bigger and bigger, because where were the parts that like Mack Truck needed or Freightliner needed or any of those big companies needed? The parts were all on those shipping containers.
Absolutely. And I had heard as well, even with the shipping containers, a lot of them were on their last legs coming into this.
Yeah.
So you had a lot of issues right around the board.
Oh yeah.
Now, with the pandemic starting to come to an end, people still just weren't going back to work,
Right.
even with the supports being cut. Why do you think that was? Were people finding new jobs? What was going on there?
I think ultimately, um, you displace people long enough, and I don't blame anybody, actually. I actually do not blame people, because if it was me and I was only looking at the microcosm of Tim and I and our little world, we would do anything and everything, as we should, to make sure the lights get kept on, hot water keeps running, and that we're feeding ourselves. Like, that would be my number one priority. And I think the pandemic, with us all being locked down, it bought us a gift of time that we didn't have when we were running our busy lives. And I think people started to explore alternatives, such as, well, we, just like you, we started a YouTube channel.
Mhm.
We were doing side hustles. We were learning how to invest in crypto. Now we see the space that you so graciously teach us every week on the metaverse. Like that there's some serious money being made in there. And so it, on top of everything else going on in our world, and we're all hypersensitive about wars and this and that and viruses, we need to be, if there's one thing people should be worried about, and they're not talking about it, but again, like the canary in the cage, if you look at the demographic numbers of, if you look at our demographic and really analyze the demographic of what's happening, we should all be shaking in our boots, because we do not have enough people. We do not have enough people to service our lifestyle, continue helping us servicing. Our world needs people to make things go. Our
Mhm.
world needs people. The largest portion of the population is about to retire.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? We talk about it now. You're seeing a small blip right now with long waits at restaurants, supply chain problems, shipping problems. You're seeing a small glimpse of it. What's going to happen when you've had 2 years of really, really, really tough working conditions? So for those that stuck it through the COVID and have worked straight through, and they're nearing that retirement age, the mental health of most people at this point in time is shaky at best. And I am talking most people, myself included. We are exhausted, tired, feel despair. We jump out of this right into a war. And if you are in that nearing that 60, 62, 63, and you haven't quite hit 65, but because the last 2 years you've made so much darn money with your investments in the stock market, and not to mention that your house is now worth millions more than it ever was before, nobody retires at a specific age. They retire when their money allows them to retire. And so my next big concern, forget the Russia-Ukraine thing, that's a concern, but what my biggest concern is who's backfilling? Who's backfilling everybody that's retiring? And then you add in all the people that have found a new way to live. We haven't got automation to the point where we can drop off that many people and that many workers without it affecting us.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. And that's going to be the scary thing. I'm just going to quickly bring us up to date here on the chat. So Bonnie's dropped in. She said, hello, ladies. How are you tonight? Hi, Bonnie. Tim is, what about Lay's and Loblaws? Is this going to be the first of many? What do you think? I'll tell you, I posted an interesting article today. Doritos has decided to put 5 less chips in all of their bags. That's their way of combating inflation by deflation of their chips. What was the chat tonight at dinner? Why are there not more people returning to work even as the assistance is drawing back? And I think, yeah, we just sort of talked about that.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone. I hope everything is going great. Hi, Scott. Nice to see you here. And we got the friggin' Oracle. There are a lot of people using mental health as an excuse not to go back to work. They are piggybacking on other government assistance programs. It's still not enough to live on. Now, he also, and I somehow missed this, he said that everybody's using credit now. Consumer debt is going to be huge.
Well, I can talk about that too.
Exactly. And then the last here, Tim is like, the buzz around the dinner table was also that once this Russia debacle is over, China will go after Taiwan.
Yeah.
All right, let's hit the debt.
So one of my dearest girlfriends, she's up there in the BFF category. She works for her brother, who's a trustee in bankruptcy. And I know we were talking about this on Wednesday night when I was talking a little bit about the debt that's coming in, and people are coming to submit a proposal. So a proposal is the first layer before bankruptcy. You want to go for bankruptcy as your last possible layer. You want to go in as a proposal at first. And what that looks like is that they would work on your behalf to negotiate for you. They would take all of what you've got in your possession as your assets, and then how much debt you've got balance to get that. And then they would go to the banks and they would go to the creditors and they would negotiate a bunch of, terms for you. And so she said, what's happening is people are coming in and their debt is so enormous compared to some of the bankruptcies of the past. So that's the first thing. So now they've got to go and try to negotiate. When your debt is so large, the only chance you have of paying that off is if it's a lower percentage. So instead of like 50 cents on the dollar isn't going to cut it in these cases. It's going to have to be like 30 cents on the dollar because the debt load's so big. And so once you've agreed to the terms of your proposal, you have to stick to that, and you have to stick to the regimented plan that you're in. And she said that what they're now seeing is not only is the debt load coming in bigger, but the number of what they're calling annulments, and I didn't even know what an annulment was. She had to explain the whole thing. People who are defaulting on the terms of their proposal, like you get, basically it's like a 3 strikes and you're out. You get, if you have 1 mistake, 2 mistakes, you get a slap on the hand. 3 mistakes and you are out of the proposal. They annul the proposal. So that means it opens the floodgate for your full debt back up again. And your creditors are at you every day again. So nobody wants to go that route. Then you have to go. Now you have no choice. They will not file another proposal. Nobody will negotiate with you again. Now you've got to go right in for full bankruptcy. But at full bankruptcy, then they start to look at your assets. And if you've got more, because think about it, if you're sitting in a home and you do this proposal and you've been going along for several months, especially the last several months, you've been going along for the last several months. Now, all of a sudden, your home, because of the raise in value, now your home has raised in value so much. So say you've built in another $500,000-$600,000 in insanity value of your home. Because you've opened your proposal, because your proposal's gone and you're going now in for bankruptcy, the banks will force you to sell your home to take that equity out to pay off their bills. This is a very bad situation to have an annulment happen. So it's telling me something. First of all, she's not nearly as busy as she was in 2009. That's always her benchmark. What they call the Great Recession, the fallout of 2008 in the January, February of 2009. That was the benchmark year. She said we're just cresting to that benchmark year. But those are the differences. The debt is coming in much larger, and the annulments of what they've already done. So what that's telling them is that even when these people first went in and they sat down to make the proposal, they do a deep dive on your your cash flow situation. I've got my job. This is how much money it brings in. Here's how much my bills are. And I've got to pay my proposal. So they have it all laid out. All you have to do is just follow the plan that they give you and you're going to be fine. The reason that people are defaulting is because the high price of everything has gone up. The high price of groceries has gone up. Now, if you want to fill your gas tank up, and all pricing is going up through the roof. So now these people who are on this very specific plan can't afford to heat their house. They just can't afford it. So this is why they're defaulting.
No, and that makes sense. I mean, because we've got on the other side, we've got inflation that's also sort of chomping at our heels. That's kind of, some of it is from the supply chain and others from the fact that we've been printing so much money. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting. And before we'll touch on the war briefly, but before we actually get to the war, one of the big issues we're also having is we had an energy crisis over in Asia in the beginning of this year.
Yep.
And
that caused the supply chain challenge to be exasperated too.
Absolutely, because a lot of these factories trying to make the goods that we need or the products we need were being basically shut down because their power was being cycled off for longer periods of time because of the energy crisis.
Yeah, the rolling blackouts. It's all of this is we live in a global world. And you cannot ignore what you're hearing on the other continents, because we're too interconnected. So, but you're right. And they were also very secretive over there about what their COVID numbers were like. And so they were constantly shutting ports down, constantly. We do a lot of seafood. The gal that does my seafood for me, she's very informative and was giving me the bigger picture of what was going on in Vietnam, which is where a lot of seafood is harvested from. And they have factories over there. They would actually had people move into these factories, and they were living in the factories so they could try to contain the people there. They did not want anybody moving around about. And so they set up little grocery stores in there. They had them in like little itty bitty, it looked like shoe boxes that they were living in. And when they weren't sleeping, they were on the factory floor trying to keep goods and services being produced and manufactured. But that was Vietnam, and Vietnam was way more open about what they were doing and what their situation was. We weren't hearing weren't hearing the same amount of stuff out of China. And so we know that they would have outbreaks, and then they would close whole ports down, which again would stop the flow of traffic. It's just it's a real thing, and we're not out of it. We are not out of it. And we got sort of, I thought by, I think it was October, I was like, well, we may actually by Easter, we may actually be on track back around if things were going swimmingly. Like I thought, okay, maybe we'll be back on track. Then we had the mudslides in BC, which gummed up our ability to move goods and services across the country. And that's when you realize that the government, at least the US, it sounds like they're our friend, but in our time of need, they were not helpful in that situation. Like we couldn't get, like, one option would have been to have all of our trucks with goods like food items and supplies to just go down across the southern border and come back in. Nope. The government in the US would not allow that because they felt like it was out of control. And I'm like, there was no resolution for this. We couldn't have done some kind of government sealed lock that they had on the other side. Like, I don't even know. So then the mudslides caused huge disruption. It cleaned out every warehouse, everything in British Columbia. People were panicked out there. And then everybody was trying to ship goods through the Rocky Mountains, which would have jacked up pricing, both directions, just trying to get goods and service. Now, then the CP rail lines, they went on strike just recently. So that was slowing the things again. It's that continuous service going back and forth across the country that got disrupted, that really then, and it hampered supply. So again, go back to our beginning. When your supply is low, people jack up their price because they can.
Absolutely.
Because they can.
Absolutely. I mean, and that really sort of, I think the whole mudslide issues in Vancouver, while in BC, really showed us exactly how fragile the whole system is as a whole.
Yeah.
Because it was amazing just to see how quickly that all just sort of came right to a halt.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes me think that we need to, in the future at least, we need to put some more highways in. You know?
Well, you know what it was, Candace? Because it's never happened like this before. You know what it was? It was the forest fires. Yeah. So when the forest fires took out those trees, the trees are necessary, not just because they purify our air, but they keep the roots and the plants hold the soil in place. That's what the problem is. Without having the vegetation, the second that the rain comes, it washes everything right down and over. And so I don't know. It's going to take them years to get this cleaned up. Like there's bridges that are out. You think about how long it takes to have road construction done in Ontario. We only have 2 seasons in Canada. We have summer and construction. That's it, so it's, or winter and construction, I should say, not summer and construction.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I know even back in Nova Scotia, it would take the government a long time just to fill potholes.
Yeah.
Something simple.
Yeah.
So that's definitely interesting. So then when we started to move towards the war, I mean, I don't think Russia could have picked a worse time to do it.
Or the best time, if you look at it from his point of view.
Perhaps. But I mean, that there then basically caused a lot of issues. Like oil was already surging because of the energy crisis.
Yeah.
And that then sort of put a hamper on that oil for that. And now we've got a situation where gas is starting to go astronomical.
Yeah.
And that's going to create another feedback on inflation, on the supply chain. Because I mean, how are we going to move all of this stuff when we're paying tooth and nail for everything?
I don't know. And at the end of the day, I mean, even if you go back, just before we get to the war, you go back to even how China handled the whole Olympics thing. They shut everything down in their country. They shut everything down because the Olympics were a priority, not keeping supply chain moving. I couldn't watch the darn Olympics because it made me so mad knowing that we're shutting everything down so we can have some artificial games that mean nothing to anything at the time of crisis. I love the Olympics. I love celebrating people who strive for that stuff, but it just made me mad. It felt like it was the wrong activity at the wrong time. And then now, the second that the Olympics ended, then the invasion of Russia.
Well, interestingly enough, China reached out to Russia and asked them to hold off until the end of the Olympics, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I love Winter Olympics. Being Canadian, of course, I love the Winter Olympics, but I didn't even pay attention to the ones this year in China at all. I was just like, no, this is wrong. We shouldn't be having these.
Yeah. So then now you add in what's going on. So for me, it's not just the high cost of gas that's a concern. I'm concerned about the amount of exports, the additional exports that will hamper and affect. So sunflower seeds being one, and you think to yourself, oh, well, it's just a sunflower seed. No, sunflower seeds are used in way more things than you know. Mm-hmm. And they make an alternative flour. They are in so many things. They make tahini. They are a nut butter alternative, and they're used a ton. So sunflower seeds, not to mention my birds like sunflower seeds, black sunflower seeds that I don't have birds in my house, the wild birds outside. Yeah, no, we're not, we like to look at them. They need to live out there and not in here. But so sunflower seeds, wheat is a big thing. Like they have a lot of exports. I could probably pull it up and see all the things that they export. But it will have an effect because we don't have enough. We do not grow enough to feed ourselves. Even though we are the second largest landmass in the world, we do not produce enough.
Well, the other big thing too is wheat. I mean, Russia is one of the biggest world producers of wheat, and that's not going to be coming to our markets anymore.
Right.
So that's going to be interesting. Now, just going back to bankruptcy for a minute here. The friggin' Oracle said that it cost him $2,200 and an extra $100 for my second car, plus next year's taxes wiped out, over $50K in debt. Now I'm sitting pretty. Well, he's an Oracle with crypto, so of course he's sitting pretty. Mine was filed due to losing a high-paying job back in 2008. I think with that whole crisis back in 2008, I actually lost a job then too. I was a training manager, national, and I saw it coming though. Shirab says hello there. Hi, Shirab. And the freaking Oracle says that the illness numbers were skewed per test, have too high of a false positive. A friend, I guess, of mine has tested positive, yet her son is sick and he tested negative. Interesting. I think that's one of those things that people will argue about for years. And let's see here. Scott says the wildfire in Fort McMurray took us years to be finished with construction of new homes, plus all the fire safety stuff like a fire break. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to take a long time just to get BC back to where they were. And the worst thing is the climate change isn't going away. So it could be just as bad this year as well. So hopefully not though, but so no doubt it'll take years to clean up BC. Then Tim says, I am priced lock as my industry is price regulated. The price of gas is not going to make me a popular person as I will not travel as much for the one-off
clients.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think the gas is going to affect everybody. My mom, she's been driving since she's been like 17. Like you even mention a bus tour and she'll laugh at you. She actually asked me the other day, how do you use the bus? Because she's thinking about using it now because of gas. Jordan says, good evening, everyone. Good to see you all. Hi, Jordan. It's nice to see you here. And then Bonnie, hello again, all. How is everyone? We're still good. But yeah, so I mean, with my mom thinking of actually using the bus, do you think that with these high gas prices, we're going to start to see a big resurgence in public transportation.
I don't know what's going to happen. I'm of two minds in all of this. I think that I don't know. It'll be very interesting because right now, as the high price of gas is like blooming, right now is when they're having us take the masks off, and they're asking us to start to come back, migrate back into the office. And I'm thinking, really, are you going to give everybody pay increases to do this? Because you've been paying us now for 2 years like this, without having to use the expense to go to and from the office. And I just think if we go back and think about what was the environment, what were the conditions that fostered the 2008 Great Recession, and are we tickling those same kinds of things? Does it look different? Does it look the same? Like that 2008 was the subprime. It was triggered by the mortgage thing. But think about everybody and their brother owned a house in the United States of America. That was actually a Bill Clinton initiative. He felt that everybody should be able to afford a house. Everybody had the right to have a house. Not disagreeing with that in theory. However, in the practical sense of the terms, how not everybody has the money to afford it. And so look at what's happening in Canada alone. Look at just even the housing market.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has got these homes now. Like Tim and I are looking for potentially a new home. We're not sure what this is going to look like because we were currently renting, and now we may have to find a new home. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
So we're in a forced situation. We're not in a, anyways, we're looking. So we're looking on the market, and I'm telling you what you can get for the money now is I'm gobsmacked. I'm like, what the ever loving hell? And so what people did, so we go back to the very beginning of our conversation, we were talking about lumber, and people were doing home renovations, and they were probably going to their bank and saying, oh, well, I've got some equity in my home. Maybe now's the time to take the equity out and do this renovation. So they've taken the equity to reinvest in their homes, and then because you look at the homes, either they're really, really crummy, or they've all got the exact same look. They've got the same type of cabinets. They've got, that looks like some kind of an IKEA cabinetry. They've got the same kind of countertop, it's almost cookie cutter kind of a look. And so now they're thinking they're going to charge the sun, the moon, and the stars, and they can get away with it because there's a supply and demand. There's not much supply on the market, and the demand for trying to get in your own home is high. But what happens when you pull out all that equity out of your home? You actually still owe the payments on that money. And now you've got higher mortgage payments that you maybe didn't think about it, but you actually owe that money. And now you've got higher price gas. Now you got higher food costs. You've got higher prices to heat your home because haven't paid the bills in the house in a long time, but I'm keeping up with most other things. I would be shocked if our water bill wasn't higher, and our electric bill wasn't higher, and our gas bill wasn't higher. I'd be shocked. And so now all of a sudden, aren't these the same conditions that they had in 2008 when people had, I had bought this home, and then I used the equity from here to buy this home, and then I used the equity from here to buy this home. And then when the subprime market came into play, and it was like a house of cards all come tumbling down. Do you not, in your opinion, Candace, and it's just you and me and a handful of people watching, does this not feel like, does this not feel like we're in that same, we're cresting that same situation? And the other thing is, you think about how high the investment portfolios had all been. Like, the stock market was at all-time highs, the investments. So people have this whole idea that they got all this money, and now that they can't make that same kind of money because the stock market has been down this last couple of weeks. So if you're a and you're day trading, and you're not being able to pull that same kind of money to support this over here, isn't this look like a house of cards that's about to come tumbling down? I mean, am I reading this wrong?
No, I don't. I think there's a lot of different bad factors going on. I mean, you've got, as you sort of mentioned, you've got everybody who's used all of their house's equity to get more houses, to build up their portfolios, so to say. The other issue too is we also got the return of interest rates. Those are coming back. The other thing is a lot of these houses, their property taxes are going to be flying way up because now that the house and the property is worth so much more, those taxes, well, they're a percentage of that. So
Yeah,
people aren't prepared, I think, for what's about to come. There's going to be a tsunami of costs.
right. Because the government's going to take their share of this.
Oh, yeah. And there's going to be, I mean, there will be foreclosures. There's no doubt about it. Will it be as bad as 2008, 2009? It's hard to say. I mean, with that time there, the American government at that time, they pretty much didn't even care if you had the resources to pay for the house. They just were just handing them out. It's almost like going to the Oprah show and she's like, you get a house and you get a house and you get a house. And that created that massive instability. Plus, they were then bundling some of the high risk people with some of the not high risk people, and then saying that it was a not high risk bundle. And that created a huge amount of volatility in the market. It was just like it was a house of cards, very easy. I think this house is a little more sturdy, but if it falls, it's going to do what all house of cards do when they fall. It's going to come crashing down.
So, and then couple that with, okay, so what happens when, so let's just even look at our company.
Mhm.
Do I want to even use this as an example? Maybe or maybe not. I'm not sure. But okay, take any business. You start having all of your cost of goods go right through the roof. Like Gary Matthews said a couple of weeks ago that his shipping business that he does, he's mentioned it 100 ways to Sunday, so I feel confident to point it out here. So he's having troubles. He was doing shipping containers and shipping products to and from and organizing all that stuff. And he was a small guy doing some deals to try and do it. But now it's become he can't do it because it's the costs are just infinitesimally higher. So what does a guy like that do? Now maybe he's doing other things, but now take that and multiply it to companies. So what do companies do when the goods, the higher prices come in, like higher freight, higher shipping container rates, fuel charges, and all that sort of stuff? Then what? Now you're passing that on to the consumer. And if the consumer doesn't absorb it, and what happens is they stop spending. Because again, if you go back to the other scenario where a higher price of the mortgage and higher price of the gas and the higher price of the food, how much is left at the end for disposable income to come in? So what is the likelihood that people are going to continue to buy hot tubs and continue to renovate their homes and continue to do all this? So you got all these orders that are coming in from overseas that still haven't come upon us, and they're on route somewhere, and then they land. And if we've already started this tumble with the high price, because now I've heard even stories where one gal, she bought a new home, she put her money down, her deposit down on a new home. And how many people have done this thinking, oh, well, I'll put my deposit down now and the thing will grow in value before I even get a chance to take possession of it? Her builder came back and said, we will give you your deposit back. We cannot sell you the home at what we were selling it to you for. Our costs have gone up. And so she got screwed, blued, and tattooed. She had to pony up more money. Like it's just a complete mess of things out there. But now what happens when this is you and me talking. What is the next phase of this? So now the higher price of goods are coming in, and people are paying higher price in gas, and all of this stuff is happening. Now they're going to go, well, I don't want that stuff. Now these businesses are stuck with inventory that they can't move. And now they're going to have to put them on sale, but more people aren't buying them because they don't have the disposable income to do all of this. Then what happens? Then if businesses get stuck with this inventory, now they're carrying high inventory and they've got higher costs, they start to lay people off.
They do.
Try to make up the balance sheet, to get the balance sheet to a normal level. And they're going, well, we're obviously not going to be as busy as we were before. And the layoffs start. And then when the layoffs start, then it exasperates the people being able to keep up with the payments on these higher
Mhm.
homes and blah, 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 blah. Like it goes on. It's mind boggling. But Candace, do you think we're there?
Oh, I think we're if we're not there, we're close.
Yeah.
I think it's a situation where we've got this giant negative feedback loop, and to be honest with you, I don't know how we're gonna break out of it because as, inflation and supply chain issues start feeding off of each other, and then the regular person who's trying to just make a living becomes the victim, when they start getting placed out of the workplace because, nobody needs them anymore, all of a sudden it just sort of adds more power to that and it gets worse and it gets worse and it gets worse. We can't print our money out. We can't print our way out of it. I mean, the government may try, but all that's going to do is it's just going to create more hyperinflation. So,
It just slows the process of what should have happened 2
mhm.
years ago when it first happened. And I will say, oh, I know there you got a thing from Jordan.
Yeah, just about bus passes being $95 a month. You know what? $95 a month is probably a lot better than paying for the gas. Trust me on that one, George.
Yeah. One of the things that I would say is a trickle down effect. So when people start feeling desperate for money and they're desperate to pay their bills and stuff, they do extraordinary things. So the other fallout of this is we'll see the crime rate rise.
Mhm.
And I think I might have been telling you, Candace, Tim and I went to the liquor store. This was quite a few months ago. And it was like I want to say a Sunday morning. We were out doing our chores, and I said, "Oh, I've got to go to take a bottle of wine to a thing I was going to." So I said, let's go to the liquor store." A young guy, came in behind us with a backpack. The backpack was wide open. He went in and he did some things. Meanwhile, Tim and I aren't paying any attention. We're just down looking for a bottle of wine. And we walked to the cash register and we're standing there ready to pay. And that kid walks right out right beside us, right in front of the cash register with the backpack zipped up. It obviously looked heavy. And we sat there and we watched this all go down. And the cashier said, the clerk said that no, we aren't supposed to do anything. And so then Tim started to brainstorm about what he was seeing here. And he goes, because the LCBO will take liquor back at any point in time for without a receipt. He
Mhm.
goes, they're just going to go return that to another liquor store to
Mhm.
get money to pay their bills.
Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, and I can understand the liquor store having that policy. I mean, you don't know if that person has a weapon or what. So
For
if
sure
I'm
not.
if
But
I'm
you
just
know what?
being paid an hourly wage, I'm not stopping somebody. I'm not
Well,
going to
no, no,
put
no.
my life on the
And
line.
even if they used to have security guards at the doors and all that sort of stuff, but they're not allowed to do any of that now. And this is more prevalent in the US than it is up here. But here's the thing. Like, so when you have theft like that going on, the business doesn't eat that. All they do is they keep raising the prices of those goods to cover off that what they call slippage. So
Mhm.
they just raise their prices to cover that stuff off. It's a big cyclical mess. The optimal life is like Mayberry. Everybody's
Yeah.
got a job. Everybody gets up every day. They go to work and they are productive members of society. They come home at night. They have dinner with their family. They kiss their significant other on the cheek and they watch a little TV and they go to sleep. And on the weekends, they might get to go fishing.
Mhm.
That's the optimal society.
Yeah.
And everybody has a roof over their head and everybody has an Aunt Bee making a pie in the kitchen. Like that's really the optimal situation. What we've got going on, what's going to start happening here is it we got an out of control, as you said, a spiraling negative loop that's going to start to get bigger and bigger and bigger till it's all encompassing. And I'm really not sure.
I mean, I can see a situation where we will have neighborhoods with empty houses in it while people are living outside.
Yeah.
And that's sad to see something like that.
Well, and then you to read reports that BlackRock, which is the largest holder of land in, I think, the world. They're just gobbling up, gobbling up, gobbling up all these houses
Mhm.
so that they can almost create a monopoly and they can rent it out for whatever they want. They're just
Yeah.
waiting. They might even be like a whale. They might be just artificially trying to push this up and then do a rug pull. Could you imagine if they did the rug pull on the markets?
Yikes, yeah. That wouldn't be a good situation at all.
No.
Okay, just to get caught up in chat really quickly. Tim says, I went to view a property today. How shall I say it? It was humbling. It was a property that needed to be gutted. Yikes.
Yeah, but it was on a nice, it was waterfront. It was nice.
Okay, so you could always tear it down and, well, I guess you can't tear it down and build it until we have all the lumber back. But the friggin' Oracle, glad I don't do the home equity thing. Godsmacked is a polite way to say it. Okay.
I don't know what they're talking about there.
I don't know either. 2008 was a horror show. People were holy banana bread. Okay, I'm not going there. I disagree on the foreclosures. People have to qualify at 5% stress test. Plus, most people are buying with generational wealth passed on. Yeah, there's definitely people who have generational wealth passed on. But here's the sad thing. The next generations are going to be, they're not going to have this. This is going to become a thing of the past. There's just not a lot of it anymore. But yeah, or they are selling their house in a big market and buying cheaper in a smaller market. That makes sense. But even the smaller markets, like Nova Scotia, the prices of the houses, even there, like you used to be able to get like a really nice house for like maybe $300,000, and now those are starting to push up to 600,000-700,000. It's just like amazing how quickly the prices are going up. Jason says the people with no assets and high consumer debt are the ones that will be left behind, unfortunately. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and it is sad. It's one of those things where, learn how to invest, learn how to make your money. At least look at it this way. Investing is like doing the doggy paddle in the water. It's a nice way to just sort of stay afloat for a bit. So, the freaking Oracle. Yes, people have to adjust lifestyles to fit new costs. $95 a month for a bus pass is less than insurance. Absolutely. I have no assets, but my only debt is $1,500 to a credit card. So that's not too bad. That's not too bad, Dave. For sure, the bus is cheaper in Sarnia. $95 doesn't even fill our tank any longer. Set the slippage to 15%. And that's probably more accurate opposed to 5%, because when you add in inflation, the price of everything going Oh, there we go. I think I'm back.
You know what's funny? I pulled up the live stream. Oh, and
Uh-huh.
it was just me. I thought, okay, am I on here by myself? I didn't know.
I wasn't even sure what had happened, because at first it went, my side went black, and then it went to just me. And so I just kept talking just in case I was on, because I wasn't sure. All right, back to Tim. Oh, we were on Tim. The security guard will not do a thing. They may have a power of arrest and use of force, but come on now. If this was the state, say hello to my little friend. Holy cow, you guys are violent tonight. So Jordan, so are you fearful the bulk of Canada may look like Detroit does now?
I don't know.
I've been to Detroit, and I'll tell you, I did not like Detroit. It was very, very dirty. Some of the liquor stores in Alberta install door scanners. Scan your ID card to open the door. That's
So
a beautiful idea,
it
really.
is, so they know exactly who you are.
Yeah, and that way there, if you steal something, the police know exactly where to come get you. Jill says it's neo-feudalism with BlackRock. Yeah. You know what would be interesting is if you could incorporate all products in the stores into the blockchain, then nobody could ever steal it because there'd be a full record of.
Yeah, the transaction. Well, I think, even with the BlackRock situation, like I'm perplexed on that one, that they're allowed to go and keep buying properties the way that they are, because we have I don't know the exact terminology for it. I'm gonna butcher it. I know I'm gonna butcher it because I'm telling you right now I don't know the term, but it's not antitrust. It's like, I know Cisco, my competitor, went to go and buy. It wasn't U.S. Foods, or there was a U.S. Foods Cisco merger that was proposed, and the U.S. government shut it down because then it would be just far too big of an organization, because it would control too much stuff. What's that term called? It's not.
Well, it's not like monopoly.
Right, but there's a term. Anyways, I will find it, and it's neither here nor there. But what I was thinking was, how is it possible that the government has not looked at BlackRock's holdings of individual property as a percentage to their overall portfolio? Because for me, I feel like it's a security risk on society that any one entity would own that much property. It's like a control.
Well,
how is it not a control thing, just like that Cisco US Foods thing?
yeah, I mean, putting on the old tinfoil hat for a moment, I would not be surprised if BlackRock is perhaps, maybe donating to a party or two in power, and that they're just not going to look at them because of that. That's kind of the way it works, I think, with a lot of these corporations. It's like if you've got your lobbyists in place and they put the right money in the right hands, then they can get away with a lot.
Yeah.
All right, and get caught up again. So we got Ryan's in the house. So Detroit's all about class separation. They have intense areas of pure luxury, and everything else is trash, with the middle class disappearing. That's closer to reality than not. That's probably true. When I went through Detroit, I actually decided to take the Greyhound from Ottawa to Montgomery. So Detroit was one of the layovers. So I was at the Detroit bus station, and it made me nervous. It was also pretty disgusting there too. It was like really, really dirty. But that was like that all the way through the states. Don't want to single out Detroit. Most of the bus stations I found in the U.S., they made it look like the Canadian Greyhound stations, like like they were run by rich people who polished everything. I mean, it was night and day difference between the two. Dave N, dispensing machines would do it as well. Don't forget, Canada is one of the fastest growing countries with population that will also keep demand high for a long time. And I wouldn't go to that liquor store. And I didn't think of a cool name. I'm not sure what that is in reference to. High-rise, isn't that developing slowly here now? Middle class is disappearing here. So yeah, I think so, Tim. And sad reality for cities like Toronto and Montreal, pricing its citizens out of decent housing. And that's true. I mean, even if you look at Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, just the actual prices of everything when it comes to real estate, and that even includes renting too, have just been astronomical. Yeah. And the rest of us are slowly starting to see that too. So it's like, you have to wonder, what would be the end game? What is the way out of this? And that's I think, the $1 million question. And it's hard to say.
Tim and I debate this all the time. Like, honestly, we sit and we have deep conversations about it. And I think primarily because we're caught up in a situation where we're now faced with trying to figure out where the right place to enter in the market is, and where do we want to live, and what does that all look like, and so on and so forth. And in theory, and I know that the theory is correct, if we we have places in the market. It's not like we don't have property. We just had chosen that we rent for our personal use, so that we could keep anything that we have attached. Like if we get a mortgage for something, that mortgage doesn't just sit with something we're using personally, where we have it and it's an income producing asset. So like the cottage we have up in Sauble Beach, that thing is a rental, and that pays completely for itself. And I don't even add it as debt load that we've got, even though there's a mortgage with our name on it that's attached to that. We have renters that are paying for that. And anything that needs to be done to that property, we put air conditioning in last year so we could charge higher rent. And so that expense came off of right off of our income level. So it's all about, okay, everything we do to that property becomes a write-off because of what it is, right? And so anyways, it's just one of those things that, oh, excuse me for 1 second.
All right. Well, she's taking care of her mom. Let's quickly catch up with a few of these. So, Hyra, you have to wonder why the trigger has not been pulled on foreign investors yet for real estate. And, oops, I missed Ryan's comment here. Endgame is we own nothing and we are happy. Well, that's been a model, I think, where, a situation where the government or they own everything and we just sort of all rent everything. That could be interesting. Taxes, so Tim, vacant properties. I think we're going to see a lot of vacant properties, honestly. Because we mentioned that earlier. And Ryan saying single incomes are screwed for home ownership, regardless of age. Without dual income, I need to be rich to purchase a house as self-employed. Sad. Yeah, it is. It's true. I was joking about the end game. Was sarcastic. Okay. That's good to know. All right.
Sorry.
Well, welcome back.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
We're worried about the time change. So she was trying to change the time on her phone. I don't know how to do that because it's the old phone. Like it's a phone. It's like it's a cordless phone. Okay. How many of us I don't have that anymore. I don't have one of those. I have a cell phone that will automatically change when the time changes. So I'm like, Mom, I can't fix that in 2 seconds. I'm gonna have to look at it for a minute.
Well, what I want to know is how many people in Canada have microwave ovens that are going to be wrong by about an hour for at least a month before somebody finally gets annoyed enough to fix it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a funny thing.
I like Redbeard's comment. Oh, we'll do Dave N first.
Yeah, true. I couldn't afford the house if I did not have two incomes. It's true. It's true. I mean, regular people have been priced out of the market. It's just the reality. The 50s are gone for good. And then Redbeard that's the great reset, going according to plan.
I think so. I think this whole thing is being reset and rejigged. I'm not sure I love it, what's happening. And again, I'm not sure what the end game is. It's hard not to fall into the trap of your own self, thinking about yourself being nothing but a hamster on a wheel. And I was having this conversation with my brother today because I was saying, I used to think the way Tim and I set it up was, as I said to you, we've got what we've got with an asset that has a mortgage attached to it, in theory, is an income producing asset. And we did that so that we could try to eke ahead a little bit by a little bit. And then now faced with this rental versus this versus that situation, we're trying to figure out, well, what to do for ourselves. What's the best course of action? I get where I get bubbled up with anger is that it doesn't seem to matter how hard we work, how many side hustles we have, how many additional things we do, how much investing, how much anything. It just feels like it's all for naught, and that we're just doomed to be on this treadmill going round and round and round and round and round. And when you stop to think about it, it's very hard not to feel depressed, and it's very hard not to feel angry, and it's very hard not to feel disillusioned, because the whole thought of, if you put yourself out there, and if you can make a difference and you strive for some different way of being, it's hard not to feel angry. So if I feel that way, and I'm a person who has a few things, and I'm not destitute and all that sort of stuff, how is the vast majority of people going to start to feel? And when you've got people and they feel disenfranchised from life, that's when we see rebellion. That's when we see unrest. That's when you see people lashing out and say, like, feeling like that they're taking stuff from me, because it does feel like that. It shouldn't be that the average person who holds down a job, even if there is a husband and wife, or a husband and a wife, whatever, couple trying to, they should be able to, with hard work and effort, be able to have a house, have a family, start a life, do all that stuff. And it feels like that's been robbed from us. And when you start feeling that way, then I don't know.
Oh, absolutely. Now, luckily, at least for this community, we're all kind of privileged in the fact that we have been exposed to investing, cryptocurrency, the stock market. So we have ways at least to try to keep ourselves afloat, which is a good thing. We got people like the Oracle, who just can, magically pull a coin out of his butt and make $10,000, which is amazing. But there's a lot of great people and a lot of wonderful resources in here. And that's kind of one of the whole things. When we look at the theme of these communities, the theme is that no matter what the government or the world is trying to throw at us, we're trying to give all of ourselves a little bit of an extra edge so that we're going to be the ones who survive it. And that's what's sort of fantastic. And that's what I enjoy seeing and hearing about all of that from all of you guys. So that's, to me, is just absolutely fantastic. Now, we've got about 14 minutes left. So if you guys got questions, this is the time to be dropping them. And, and Tim's smart remark is, if you don't fix the time on the microwave, your food will be undercooked by 1 hour.
Tim, when you come here tomorrow, you're going to have to go around and help Mom fix all these things. I'm just telling you right now.
He's going to be like, why did I even bring that up now? And then Dave D, thanks for the reminder on the time change, Nancy. I need to reset my alarm clock.
Now, if Tim was on here, he would tell you, I have this terrible habit that every time the time changes, and I want to say I haven't done it in a few years, specifically because he says that I do it. So I specifically don't do it. But he said for the next few days, I literally walk around going, oh my God, I don't know what time I feel like we're eating dinner at the wrong time. It doesn't feel right. This is really 10 o'clock when it's 11 o'clock. And this is really 9 o'clock when it's 10 o'clock. And so anyways.
Yeah. Well, the one nice thing about this time change is my cat will wake me up at the same time every morning.
Right.
I usually just lie there anyway and try to get back to sleep, but it means that she's going to be doing it an hour later.
I know these time changes wreck it for us with the dog. The dog is so discombobulated. He will be up at the weirdest time tomorrow, but Tim doesn't want to hear me say, well, it's because it's really 9 o'clock when it's 8 o'clock and 8 o'clock when it's 7 o'clock. And
Tim just did a mega eye roll as Nancy said that.
Yes, Ryan, he did. But isn't it so joyous that he's not here to do it in front of me?
Absolutely. Well, so what do you have going on this week?
This week is going to be fun paint the kitchen cupboard week up at the cottage. Oh. So Tim and I are both going to go up to the cottage, and he's got the handy dandy sander, and he's going to sand down the cabinets. And so we're going to be up there for a little bit. I don't think we're going to stay the whole time. It's going to start getting challenging because I actually booked my first flight out of the garden shed in early in April. And so I started looking at it, and in May, I've got the food shows starting. So I'll be traveling to Halifax and then to Quebec City and then to Montreal. And then we have our big one here. I've got a nice little event happening in BC. In Whistler, there's a big conference going on there in the first week of June.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden, my world where I could do, this is the other thing, I could do all these extra things because I was stuck in my garden shed, and you just did your day and shut your laptop down, and that was the end of it. Now the travel schedule starts. I think I'm going to Montreal in 2 weeks. I'm going to drive, and then I come home from that, and then I'm going on my first plane ride in 2 years. Gotta keep my gold status up on WestJet. But yeah, no, it's honestly, life feels a little bit like it's getting out back to normal. Like I was out, took a client out for a lunch date this week, and then I was at a breakfast meeting, and both times I sat around and I was like doing this, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, borderline feels like normal again.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. Now
What do you?
your channel hit 900 subs.
I know. I think we're at 904 now. We skipped right on past 900. We sat at 896 for like ever, and then it went. You know what it was? I think it was the topic. I think people want to understand what's about to happen, and I think people, as much as it's a scary topic and it's scary to have these conversations, they're just data points, and it's just knowledge. Do we like it? No, we don't like it. There's almost part of me, this is going to sound weird. There's almost part of me that once they announce that we're in a recession, it's almost like I'm going to feel relief. Like, okay, it finally did what it was supposed to do. Now we can prepare for going forward.
Yeah.
It feels like we're on edge all the time because we're like, we know it's like the hammer's going to drop at some time. It's like when you're a little kid. When you're a little kid and you did something bad and your mom said, wait till your father gets home. And then you sat there and you're like, oh, and the dread of dad coming home was way worse.
Doom.
The impending doom was way worse than what actually happened. So it feels the same way. Not that I want a recession, but it will make logical sense to me, and I'll go, okay, now we can move forward properly.
Oh, absolutely. And Scott's asked me about the metaverse. So how's the crypto gaming journey going? So we've done 2 weeks. First week was a nothing burger. Second week, we were in the sandbox. We did one whole zone area, had some fun. We're going to go back to the sandbox again tomorrow. So that'll be 4 p.m. Eastern over on Twitch. There will be a link on my Facebook page. So if you're not a member of the Facebook page, down below, there is a link over there to it. There's also a link over there to my Patreon. So if you like TA, that's where I'm going to be putting most of my TA going forward, is over on the Patreon page. Because Patreon, I think, is going to have more of a crypto focus than the main channel, simply because the main channel doesn't share crypto stuff as much.
Right.
So that's all over there. And all of that stuff is down below. Also, we mentioned that Nancy got to 900. If you guys are not subscribed to the Nancy and Tim Dancer Show, I have put a link down below right at the top. There's normally a link for them, but I moved it up to the top just for this episode. Just so
yay! Thank you.
Get over there and give them a little bit of love. Coming up on my show, shorts every day. There's always shorts. So there will always be new content from me every single banana bread day. It's going to happen. Video coming up on Monday is a request video. It's my dream team of ETF. So the ETF dream team.
Nice.
You want to check that one out.
Did you hear about the that the judge denied the SEC's motion to strike Ripple's fair notice defense? Did you see that?
I did. I saw something else today that was really interesting. A Mexican news channel, they tweeted out that Mexico is on the verge of accepting Bitcoin as legal tender.
I know. It's just about to all roll for sure. Well, I was talking to
be big.
For sure. And I was talking to Mark Lazaruk about this Ripple thing, because it's really has always been the thing that they're saying is going to replace SWIFT, the SWIFT payment system. And he says it's not over yet, but this is a huge blow to the to their case. So they were. So he says that we should be expecting a settlement very, very soon. So
That'll be good. And you guys are still holding your Ripple, are you not?
yes, you betcha we are.
That could be a nice payday.
You betcha.
That could be very, very nice.
Yeah.
And Scott says congrats to both you and Nancy or both you and Tim getting to 900. I think that's fantastic.
Yep. The little engine that could. That's how I look at us. The little engine that could.
And Bleak, looks like Bleak just showed up. Hey, at least you're here for the last 6 minutes. So nothing wrong with that. Jill says, don't forget to hit the like button. Yeah, absolutely. If you haven't hit the like button yet, definitely hit that like button. Turn it blue. So one time we love the color blue. Also subscribe if you haven't yet. I want to get that community tab at 500. So
yeah,
definitely a push on there.
What does the community tab do?
Well, it's basically a little, almost like a forum. So you can post polls, and you can just post messages to your team, to your crew. I mean, I can do all of that right now on Facebook, but it's just a nice little extra thing that you can do on YouTube to get more interaction. And the interaction you get on the community tab, it does help with the algorithm for YouTube in general. So it's a good thing to be using it. And if you can, especially if you can start engaging your audience on it, it definitely will help the channel overall. So that's a good thing. What was I going to say? Oh, I was going to mention something with shorts. So where you guys are at 900 and you're trying to make that push for 1,000, you guys might want to start throwing out some shorts. Like every time I throw out a short, and if it gets like, let's say 500 people just come in and bang, then I get anywhere from 3 to 5 subs for that.
Interesting.
So
Tim did a whole bunch of shorts in the very beginning, and we have talked about going back and doing the 5 minutes in the morning in the bathroom. I'm not putting the hair curlers back on. I haven't worn hair curlers in a long time.
Here's the thing, though. You want to be doing the shorts themselves. So anywhere from 10 seconds to maybe 55 seconds. Ideally, interesting. One of the content producer people that I follow was saying that YouTube really loves 15-second shorts. So it's just a quick little thing. Like, you remember when Tim used to do the term of the day?
Yeah.
That would be a perfect short. But he'd want to actually do it as a short, not, so you film, like, just take the camera, film it as a short, hit the short button, film his word of the day, post it, bang. That's all it takes.
I know like he was getting too fancy. We wanted to put in the front thing and the back thing, and
you don't have to with shorts. You don't need a thumbnail. You don't need anything. Basic thing with a short is just get in there, give your information, and if you can, throw a tiny call of action at the bottom. For example, he could be like, today's word of the day is FUD, fear, uncertainty, doubt, and then explain what they are, and then say, and for more words of the day, be sure to subscribe. Bang, over.
Or he could do some kind of a weird dad joke with FUD.
Yeah, he probably could.
He could get away with it because he's got super skills. That's one of his super skills. I don't understand it, but there you go.
Great show. Hope to see you on the friggin' Oracle tonight. Yeah, I will stop by on the Oracle. I felt bad last night because I couldn't believe that nobody was helping poor Ken out. Ken was there by himself all night. I was like, oh dear, why did I pick last night to have movie night?
Is he gonna be on right after this?
Yeah, he normally goes on at 10 o'clock. So we normally finish up. We wrap up here usually between 9:30 and 10, depending on the conversation. And then his show
might be past my bedtime.
Oh yeah. But this time I will grab his link, and he'll have somebody to talk to for a bit until I get too tired. Or until Joe tells me I'm too tired. Whichever comes first.
So true. So true.
All right. Ripple Ice Cream. We're just going to get through these last few comments here. Thanks for the reminder, Jill. Smoked like. Awesome. From the bathroom banter to 900, listening to your not financial crypto advice. Congrats on to 1,000. Yes, absolutely. We will do some at the cottage this week.
Oh, honey.
And folks, hit like and subscribe. Absolutely. For some clips from last week's episode, given the topic was fire. Absolutely. And you know what? There's always funny things that happen on your show. Just clip them. Like, that's all that Nate does, and Nate's doing the same thing. Nate and we're keeping pace, and all he's doing is he's just clipping his little pieces of his show. Like he might take one topic and make 5 little clips out of it, and sometimes it just you have to almost watch all 5 to get the whole gist of it.
Huh.
Whereas mine are self-contained, but that's just because I'm kind of anal that way.
Yeah.
So
I think Tim. That sounds like Tim Danter's going to get busy.
I think Tim Danter needs to be busy. He just, he spends too much time just lying around watching Nay.
It's true.
Shorts.
It's so true. It's so true. Okay, so I have a quick question tonight. So then, when Ken goes on for one of his extremely long sessions tonight, and then we have the time change, does he gain? Does that mean his stream was actually 6 hours instead of 5 hours? Or does that mean it was actually 4 hours instead of 5 hours?
No, I don't.
Tim Danter, I can't get my head wrapped around this one. I'm sorry, I can't.
I think it works by the timer. From whenever you started it, it times it out. So he doesn't get any extra credit or lose credit depending on, spring forward, fall back.
So if he starts at 10 o'clock, he's already half an hour past his time if we were tomorrow.
Exactly. So, he would just have a slightly shorter stream. Or, well, I mean, technically you have the same length, but just he'll have less sleep at the other end or whatever.
Exactly.
All right, everybody. I want to thank everybody for coming out here tonight. You guys were a fantastic audience, fantastic guests. It was great to have you on the show, Nancy. You did a fantastic job. So thank you very much. And everybody out there, be sure to subscribe to Tim and Nancy Danter and myself if you haven't, and check out my shorts. I put a lot of work into those.
Clearly.
So
I love it.
Everybody, take care, and we will see you again very soon. Bye, everybody.